How we doing today, guys?
Coach, listen, so thankful you're joining us today. I didn't know. I had no idea. Sent the text last night. I'm like, is Coach going to stop by? They said absolutely. Thank you for that. It's great to see you, Coach.
Yeah.
It is great to see you.
Always good to be here. I always enjoy you guys for a few minutes.
I understand. We will keep the shot clock on for sure. The play clock will continue to roll on. As you look back on the season now, a couple of days removed, I don't know if you got a chance to reflect at all. SEC champion, obviously had a newer team, had an early loss. How will you view it? Have you got a chance to do that yet? Have you got to reflect on everything that happened this past season thus far?
That's pretty much like I said to the players in the locker room after the game. Everybody's very disappointed that we didn't finish the game. We had opportunities in the game. We got exposed in some areas up front, and too much pressure on the quarterback. Couldn't stop them in the end when we needed to. But everybody needs to remember that this team has come a long way. You guys accomplished a lot winning the SEC championship. So let's don't forget what we were able to accomplish, even though everybody's disappointed right now.
Yeah, and anytime you lose the last game of the season, people are going to be disappointed, which is a good thing. You want your team to have that type of mindset. Those are the type of guys you want. A lot of greatness was had by your team, and it seems like we're going to propel into next year in a fantastic way. Let's talk about that pressure on Jalen Milroe. Did it surprise you how good their D-line was? Was it a surprise? Did you think going into the game that was going to be the case with Jalen Milroe getting it? It was first play, I think third play. It came out hot and early. We were there.
Yeah, well, I don't think it was Jalen Milroe's necessarily all his fault.
Of course.
It was, they just star fire. We're supposed to be first play of the game. We're supposed to be sliding, that way. Tackle slides, guard doesn't. Quarterback gets blown up. Third play of the game, they pressured us. We didn't pass off the game inside. So, and once your quarterback starts getting affected a little bit, even though it's not necessarily his fault completely, it's tough to play. And we got to the point in the game where, we didn't have a lot of confidence in being able to throw the ball, not because of our skill guys, but our inability to protect. And we did run the ball pretty effectively in the game. But to answer your question, I was not surprised by their front seven, the quality of down people they have, especially their inside players. Those guys do a really good job. They got a good scheme. They're really well coached, and they did a nice job of defending us. And, one of the things that was a big difference in this game, which nobody ever talks about, and it's a very simple thing. And, Chuck probably would agree with me on this one, is we're in no huddle. All right. And when you play a no huddle team and you're not going fast, which we didn't go fast enough, then their signal caller is basically making calls to defend the formation and the alignment that you're in. They're the only team that we played all season that got in a huddle. So, it used to be every team was in a huddle. So we play our first game of the season where we're playing against a team that's in a huddle. So you don't have the advantage of seeing those formations until they come out of the huddle. So you got to make calls, and that's something that's changed a lot in football. The simple concept of do you huddle or go no huddle, but it does affect the game in a way that most people wouldn't even imagine.
Go ahead, AJ.
That's interesting to hear you say that, Coach. Now, we were on the sidelines, and we were coming back after the halftime break, and we were speculating on what your message might have been to the team, and we were thinking, hey, guys, we're for your team, like, we're not playing great, we're not executing like we should, but we're still only down 3, so it's almost like a positive. What was your message? Because you guys did kind of come out hot and had a spark on offense.
Well, that's exactly what I told the team. I said, we're not playing Alabama football. We're not executing very well. We're not playing with great intensity. I said, you guys are all hooting and hollering in here before the game. That's like whistling by the graveyard, man. I mean, you got to go compete. You got to go execute in the game. You got to have discipline to execute. So, but after all that being said, and us not playing very well, it's 13-10. So if we go out and play Alabama football in the second half, we got a great chance to win this game. So, and we did from the beginning of the second half all the way until 4:41 left to go in the game. We played pretty well. Now, the big thing in the game to me, that when we got ahead 17-13, we had the ball 3 or 4 times and never scored to make it a 2-score game. kicked a field goal, but it still makes it a one-score game. And then when we had to stop them in the end on defense, we didn't do it.
Yeah, the overtime ended pretty quickly. I don't think any of us expected that. That Blake Corum run was phenomenal once we watched the film back. And I think Chuck will have a question about the end of overtime. I'm excited to hear you two break that down. The reason why I was celebrating is because as we were calling the field pass thing on the sideline, we actually gave your speech at halftime while we were standing over there. Now, we didn't deliver it, obviously, anywhere near as smart as you, but like that was our big takeaway as well, going in halftime. It's like, hey, this Alabama team has not played well at all, pretty much anywhere. The offense has been pretty kind of Houdini'd out of the way, except for the one Jace McClellan run. On defense, J.J. McCarthy was throwing fast. It felt like Blake Corum was running, and it was only down 3. I'm happy to hear that we're on the same. Hey, we know you, Coach. Coach, I think we know you a little bit, which is good. Not everything, obviously. We're nowhere near as intelligent as you. But whenever your team comes out, you have that freshman running back kind of start. Haynes?
Justice Haynes.
Haynes, I think is his name. And we obviously did a lot of research on this game because we were calling it. And when he gets lined up in the backfield, we're like, all right, nobody did any research on this. Why did you drop him in there? Seemed to be a spark. Is that a decision? Is that why? And how did he kind of earn that spot from the season to the Rose Bowl?
Well, he's been an outstanding player for us all year long, but the running back position was a little bit of a logjam for us. We had 4 guys that were all really good players. And at some point in time in the season, each one of those guys sort of had a little injury or was out, so it worked out. And in this last game, Roy Dell, number 5, was had a little bit of a bad ankle, so that kind of opened the door for 22. But when he had the chances to play in the past, he played very well. And I think he has a very bright future, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player. Jason McClellan was down the week before in the SEC championship, or the game before in the SEC championship. So didn't get to play as much. We thought we should have played him more. So took advantage of his opportunity and played really well.
He did. We enjoyed watching him immediately upon getting onto the field. And now you talk about him. He's going to be back, obviously, young guy. Jalen's going to be back. We saw him immediately after the game. He was devastated, obviously. Competitor with the year that it was, how it ended. He's going to be back motivated. There's some guys that aren't, though. Tone has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, it feels like this offseason or just the end of the season might be a little different for you, because it feels like normally you have guys that are like, okay, they're absolutely going to the NFL draft, but it feels like this year you might have more tweeners, whether they should go to the NFL draft or come back. Do they come to you and ask you for advice if they think you should have them go to the NFL? And how hard is that? Just being honest with a kid saying, maybe I feel like you should come back, or if you should go to the NFL.
Well, my whole approach, being an NFL guy to some degree and understand the league, is I try to get 25 teams to give us grades on all of our draft eligible guys. So the reason we always leave practice open, because I tell the NFL just the opposite of, some coaches, that I want you guys to come to practice. I want you to evaluate all of our players, because I'm going to call you and ask you, where are you going to pick this guy? So I can give them good information so they can make a business decision. And we try to, give our guys the advice based on the business side of it. The money goes down in the draft very quickly. There's no developmental league in football like there is in basketball or hockey or basketball, G League, whatever. So, your development has to occur in college, and your security comes based on guaranteed money. Well, if you're not going to be a first or second round draft pick, you don't have the guaranteed money to guarantee a roster spot. It's a business decision, but a lot of these guys, make emotional decisions. But the one thing about staying in college now is the quality of life's a lot better because of name, image, and likeness. So you're not poor when you're going to college, like was once the case for a lot of guys. And so they don't have to make emotional, rash decisions about going to the league. But we do advise them. They do all come and see me. I give them the information. I gave them the information after the SEC championship game. We're trying to be open about this. We have forums where we set up meetings with agents for them, and we have agent education programs. So we're doing everything we can to help them make good decisions and choices. But and at the end of the day, it's whatever's in their heart, because if they come back and it's not in their heart, they won't improve their draft status anyway. So, but it is a business decision, and we try to encourage them to use that information to make a decision that's going to be best for their career.
Pretty big decision, only going to affect the rest of your life. You know, so it is massive. I appreciate how much effort you spend in making sure you get them the right answer. You saying 25 teams send back grades. I don't know how many other people are doing that. And obviously, there's a reason why Alabama has become the NFL factory that it is, because you handle the transition from college into the NFL so well. But let's talk back about what you said. You said these guys aren't poor in college anymore with name, image, likeness. I remember getting out a loan for $40,000 just to have a good time. I was on full scholarship. Didn't want to ask my parents for any money. And if I end up not making the NFL, I'll be in debt like everybody else. And if I make the NFL on that 25% interest loan, I'll be able to pay it back at some point. So that was kind of my give and take on it all. But now with name, image, likeness, that is being a reason that is brought up for why you want to get the hell out of college football. Obviously, another offseason has come. So now the conversation goes to Coach Saban might be done, might be retiring. With how that game ended, did that have any effect on your future thoughts or opinions? Have you obviously thought about that throughout the last few years? And why do you think it gets brought up every single year as if you were going to be done?
Well, because I'm getting old, I guess.
You look good, though, Coach. You look good.
Look, I ask everybody that asks me that question, are you going to be here for 4 years? Some players ask me, when you're going to retire. I look at them and say, well, can you guarantee me that you're going to be here for 4 years? And they look at me like, hell no, I'm not making that. Whatever, get a better deal someplace else. So, and I just think it's the way of the world now that, college football has changed dramatically, especially in the last 3 or 4 years. And roster management, guys getting in the portal, pay for play is definitely alive and well. I mean, name, image, and likeness has really become pay for play. As soon as you allow collectives to be a part of what you're allowed to give to a player, and look, I'm all for improving the quality of life of players. I think they do a lot for the university, and I think they should be compensated in some way for that. But I also think there needs to be some kind of competitive balance associated with who spends what you can pay a player. Does anybody have a contract that obligates them to do things? Because, what happened in the Florida State-Georgia game, and, Kirby, this happened to him a few years ago when they played Texas, is you got all these guys opt out of the game. It's not good for college football. It's not good for bowl games. It's not good for fans. It's not good for college football. And I'm not criticizing the players who chose not to do it, but it's just not good for college football that people aren't obligated to fulfill some kind of an obligation to their team. Every competitive league, every competitive venue has some kind of rules that are guidelines for how we have to treat people and what their obligation is to the team.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I brought this up. Now, that score ended up being 63-3. And I don't know if you caught all the chatter and conversation from the Florida State fans, but they were very passionate and loud about how mad they were that they weren't in the college football playoff. They could have been one of the only teams alongside Liberty that could have ended their year as undefeated. There was a lot on the line, but they still had opt-outs, and obviously business decisions were made by people. You do what you have to do. But last year, in a similar situation, Bryce Young played, Will Anderson played for your program. Why do you think that was the case? Why do you think that happens, and how do we get that happening in more places, you think, Coach?
Well, yeah, it was the approach that we took. I mean, a lot of Florida State people called me. I got thousands of phone calls and bad text messages and called every name in the book. And Miss Terry even got called a few names.
No, nobody's talking about Miss Terry. Nobody's talking about Miss Terry.
They did. We got in the playoffs and they didn't. And I was, I saw a Florida State fan, when I was recruiting in Florida. And he kind of gave me the business. And I said, hey, look, we were left out last year. We lost 2 games. We ended up 5th. We were the last team out. And we had a pretty good team. We lost 2 games on the last play of the game. And, it was our fault that we lost those games, but we got left out. So we had a choice to make. And our players got together and said, hey, we want to go prove in the bowl game that, we should be in the game. We're playing Kansas State. Kansas State beat TCU. And it was our opportunity to go play in the game, and everybody wanted to play. And, we beefed up the insurance for our guys that were draft guys, which, maybe some people wouldn't do, but, our university was willing to do that and make a commitment to those players so they could play and not worry about injury and that type of thing. We went and played and had a lot of fun and had a great game. And a lot of people said, well, maybe they should have been in the playoffs. So I say, you have the same opportunity to do that this year. You're going to play Georgia. All right, if your team all bands together and says we want to go play Georgia and beat them and show that we should be in the playoffs. So, but that didn't happen. But that's why our team came together and played in the game, and the players wanted to play in the game. So,
could you imagine the story that the Florida State undefeated beat the back-to-back national champs too?
Yeah.
That is, I would almost have a parade.
Yeah.
If I would we won the national I'd make rings. I'd do the whole thing.
Yeah.
We did it. Like, you could have had that opportunity. Instead, 63-3, we'll never be able to have the actual conversation. It's crazy. There's also, in this time period, for coaches, is pretty wild. Something you've experienced in the past. Go ahead, Con Man.
Yeah, Coach, because you are the godfather of college football, right now is that kind of odd time where teams, seasons are ending and coaches are going to, different schools, but some coaches are going to, make the jump to the NFL. Do guys reach out to you for advice as far as what that transition is like and, how to handle the different, personalities in the NFL versus college football? And also, do you think NIL helps those coaches? Because now when they go to the league, they understand that there is also this other side that is the business that the NFL, has always had and that the NCAA is now just, getting into?
Sometimes on occasion, especially guys that have been on our staff before, they ask a lot about what it's like coaching in the NFL. And, I think it's great to coach in the NFL. I think there was a time when coaching in college lifestyle was probably a little better. I think right now, based on the circumstances that we've created in college football, lifestyle is a little bit better in the NFL. Every guy, some guys love recruiting. They like relationships. They like trying to help guys develop when they're young people, which I've always kind of enjoyed that part of it in college football. But I also really enjoy the competitive edge that the NFL has. You got the best teams, the best players competing against each other. And 70% of the games are, decided by a touchdown or less. So it's really, really great, coaching those kind of competitors and those kind of players. So there's good and bad in both. And I just try to lay that out for guys and say it's kind of, what you choose and what you enjoy doing the most that will make you the most happy.
That early signing period is awesome.
Yeah.
That early signing period is good time, right? That was a good move by college football to add that in there.
Well, it depends, if you look at, you take our month of December, okay, early in December, we play SEC championship game.
Okay.
We go recruit for 2 weeks. We start practicing for college football playoff. And while we're recruiting and practicing and trying to prepare for a game and trying to do a game plan, starting December 16th with the December 20th or whatever signing date, you got all these things roll into one. Not to mention, everybody, when you go home, is worried about who's getting what for Christmas. So all this stuff is rolled into a time period where it is really, really hectic. And then you have a couple of days off for Christmas, and then you get in a plane and go to Los Angeles and practice every day. So that's why I gave our coaching staff a couple of days off. And I know this is a tough transition time for, a lot of players getting in the portal and, trying to manage our roster, but December is a real grind for college coaches.
I was excited to hear how you were going to describe that there. Real grind was the answer. I didn't know if there was different ways to phrase that potentially. I loved you saying, and then, there's Christmas too.
Yeah.
Canceled. Christmas is canceled because you didn't even add in transfer portal happening at that exact same time. We appreciate your guys' sacrifice for good football.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And if you're able to manage all that and win a game and win a national championship, truly showcases how great an organization and program is. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, you mentioned last year that the school helped kind of beef up insurance policies for some of your players. Is that a common thing? From what I know, it's the individuals that had to go out and get that. Is that something that changed with the NIL, and is that common throughout college football?
It's allowed for us to look. We used to, the NCAA used to allow players to buy insurance when they were rated by the insurance company as a potential draft pick. As time has gone on and we've made more and more player benefits, then we could pay for players' insurance. And, as you know, there's three kinds of player insurance. You got disability insurance, which means you get hurt and your career ends. And then you got loss of value insurance, which is, I was going to get drafted in the first round. I got hurt. I got drafted in the third round. They're supposed to pay me the difference. That's tough to prove and tough to collect on. And then, you got critical injury insurance, which is just like your homeowner's policy. You get an ACL, you get $250,000 or whatever. So instead of us trying to decide who gets what, we used to just pay for insurance. And when Tua got hurt, it changed my whole philosophy on this, and that, hey, that family should have made this decision about what insurance he has. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we just started giving blocks of money, to families. If you got a first round grade, you got this much money. You got a second round grade, you got this much money. And you go choose whatever kind of insurance that you want. And it gives the players and the families a better peace of mind. And if they want to add to that, they can.
I got the Lloyds of London the year that I got franchise tagged. I think I paid like $35,000 or something like that for a $20 million insurance policy. I would have had to get my legs sawed off in the middle of a practice, pretty much. But I assume Aflac is hooking it up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I assume Aflac got that duck coming into that facility. Say, what do you need? How do you need it? That's good news. And with the car dealerships, too.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of insurance. Did you hear him just break down? Obviously, you guys know. Critical loss. You got this. Hey, that was beautiful there. Yeah. Preaching on some insurance stuff. Now, Chuck has a question for you about the end of that game. He was kind of breaking it down at a different level.
Yeah, Coach, I know you've had to talk about this a lot ad nauseum, to be specific, but the end of that game, we all know what happened, once we ran the last play, but leading up to that, did you anticipate, Michigan, like when you went out the first time, did you anticipate and kind of think like, okay, they're probably going to call a timeout here, going to take the Kodak, as we called it, take a picture of the formation, the personnel group, and then go and get in the exact same, because they're counting on you coming out in the same thing. Did you anticipate that, number one? And then number two, did you give them something on that first formation, that first personnel group, that you knew they were going to take that, and then give them something different? Because I can't remember exactly what the formation was before you guys took the timeout. Can you take us through that again, Coach, the thinking there, the strategy?
Well, actually, I think I did kind of anticipate that they would call timeout. But the first time we went out, we had the look that we wanted to run the play that we wanted to run. They called timeout.
Okay.
We changed what we were going to do. The second time we went out, we changed personnel group and we changed the formation. And we didn't like the look that we got. So we called timeout. But you only get one timeout.
Yeah.
In college and overtime for each overtime session. So the third time we go out, we change personnel again. And I didn't like the look that we got. We couldn't call timeout. We should have looked the play so that when I say look the play, line up in the formation, see what they're in, and have a second thing that you could go to. And we didn't do that. And that was our fault as coaches. And we would have had an opportunity had we blocked. They ran just Eagle Blitz, which you know what Eagle Blitz is. It's just Sam will fire, and it was a gap play, quarterback run. We got knocked back inside and didn't block the guys, kicked the guy out off the edge, didn't collect the people correctly, and got blowed up. So, but Tommy felt good about the quarterback runs because we knew we'd probably get pressure, and we hadn't been blocking their pressure very well all night. So he felt good if we trapped a quarterback run on the pressure, we'd be able to split them, which had been successful at other times in the game.
Yeah, as we're watching it, we're like 11 yards away as we see it just get muddy. I mean, there was nowhere straight for Milroe to run. But a lot of people now, couch quarterbacks and things like that, they've gone slow-mo on a sky cam. And because guard pulled, Jalen Milroe, if he cuts to the left, now you see the side shot, that would have been an incredible cut. I mean, he would have had to have done it so fast, so quick, and ran a 4-1 potentially sideways right there to get around where the guard. Go ahead.
And it wasn't a great snap. I mean, it was a low two-lace snap, which now you don't have your eyes up, so it makes it harder to make those kind of cuts.
Hey, that was happening all game. I don't even know what was going through your mind. We were talking about it. Even on Jace's touchdown, that was a low snap that he had to pick it up. And obviously, Chase has been a great ball player for you guys. That's something we have a former NFL center that said it can become, you start overthinking it a little bit. Do you think that was taking place throughout it? And did you talk to him? How'd that convo go?
That's something that's been a little bit of an issue for us all year long. Yeah. When you go on a clap, and you use that as a noise cadence. Every time somebody hits a pad on defense, they're not allowed to clap on defense, which is actually what happened in the Auburn game when we got behind the 8 ball before the 4th and 31 play when the ball got snapped and the quarterback wasn't ready for it and we had a huge loss. They actually did clap on defense. They weren't doing it intentionally. The safety was just trying to get the linebacker's attention. And it's a common thing, but it is a penalty. But Michigan was not clapping, but our center was thinking that somebody was making a noise that sounded like a clap, and he was snapping the ball early sometimes and when we weren't ready for it sometimes. So that's a huge issue for a quarterback.
Okay, yes, for a whole offense, especially when it's built on timing and everything like that. And we hope Chase, I believe he's entered the transfer portal, they said, can get through it. That's a no fun mental battle happening in his head. But yeah, I didn't know that was taking place. Early snaps happening in a semifinal game is certainly not desirable. And as we let you go enjoy your life, and we can't thank you enough for the season that we've had together, and I assume we'll see you on Monday. We have no idea what your schedule is. Will you utilize this game, obviously, as motivation for the entire offseason? Like, does this now immediately become the messaging for the entire offseason as Jalen comes back and everything? Have you kind of pieced that together yet, or are we still enjoying life from what we accomplished last season?
Well, we're not enjoying life after getting beat, I can tell you that. But, I think it's always a motivation for you when the season doesn't end like you want it to. Players are usually hungry and want to prove something, and hopefully that'll be the case with our team. But I think the big thing right now is trying to manage the roster and keep the team together as best we can.
All right, Coach. Well, enjoy the hell out of yourself. Please tell Miss Terry we appreciate her.